The early morning mist slowly lifted from the barren military compound, revealing hardened faces and weary souls. Among them stood Private Mark Donovan, a soldier whose silent eyes carried the scars of battle and the weight of regret. Today, his fate would be decided. He was accused of a grave mistake, a friendly fire incident that had taken the lives of 4 comrades. The allegations had been incontrovertibly damning, the evidence marshaled by a relentless prosecutor, and the courtroom buzzed with a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Yet, as the tribunal convened in a solemn hall filled with military uniforms and hushed whispers, one constant remained: the unspoken bond between Mark and his loyal K9 partner, Rex. The courtroom was austere, every detail resonating with formality and the gravity of the proceedings. At the head of the tribunal sat Judge Carmichael, a stern man whose furrowed brow betrayed a lifetime spent enforcing duty and discipline. The prosecutor, Lieutenant Harris, delivered his case with cold precision. He painted a picture of a soldier who had failed in the battlefield, neglecting both duty and caution, one whose error had cost his brothers in arms more than a friendly fire accident ever should. As Lieutenant Harris unfurled a series of charts, maps and testimonies of those who had witnessed the incident, Mark remained silent. His eyes, deep pools of sorrow, fixated on a distant memory, a time when Rex, his courageous German shepherd bred for military excellence, had been his sole companion in the chaos of war. The recollections of their shared struggles filled him with a bittersweet solace, even as the tribunal's harsh words threatened to shatter the remnants of his honor. At the culmination of the accusations, Judge Carmichael's booming voice resonated through the hall. The evidence presented, as damning as it may appear, leaves no doubt regarding the culpability of the accused. For the sake of justice and discipline, the tribunal sentences you, Private Donovan, to execution. A cold silence fell over the courtroom. Murmurs trickled among the onlookers, each one a tribute to the tragic inevitability of a wrongly condemned life. In that charged moment, when the finality of his fate seemed insurmountable, Mark stepped forward with one simple request. A request that would change everything. "Your Honor," he spoke softly, his voice carrying the weight of sorrow and unyielding determination, "may I see my K9 partner?" His words, measured and quiet, yet filled with profound emotion, pierced the tension as if they were a plea for redemption. There was a stir in the room. The commanding officer, Colonel Adler, a man renowned for his iron-fisted resolve and now revealed to be entwined in a darker web of betrayal, attempted to silence the request. His eyes flickered with both defiance and fear as he motioned for Rex to remain in the shadows of the corridor. But what had once been just a loyal partner emerged as something far greater. Rex was not only a weapon of war, but a beacon of fidelity, a silent guardian whose deeds had spoken louder than any human word. In a quiet but dramatic turn, Rex bounded into the courtroom, his tail and eyes radiating determination. Soldiers in uniform and civilians alike watched in astonishment as he approached Mark with measured steps, bridging the gap between loyalty and life. As the courtroom fell into a hushed awe, Rex did something no one could have anticipated. With gentle insistence, he trotted behind the commanding officer himself, who had been hastily preparing to remove any trace of the unsavory evidence. Rex's finely tuned senses had picked up something amiss. From beneath a military duffel bag, Rex emerged clutching a small, unassuming USB drive in his jaws, a piece of evidence hidden away, capable of unraveling the twisted narrative that had condemned Mark. A collective gasp rose from the assembly. Lieutenant Harris's confident facade began to crumble as the contents of the USB drive were swiftly examined by a forensic team summoned from the rear of the hall. The incriminating data, painstakingly recorded and securely stored, revealed a truth that cut deeper than any friendly fire could. The evidence had been tampered with. Even more damning was the discovery of a conspiracy orchestrated by Colonel Adler himself, a deliberate act to shift blame away from his own transgressions and secure his reputation at the expense of an innocent man. As the revelation cascaded through the silent courtroom, Judge Carmichael's stern eyes softened for a moment, grappling with the implications of a miscarriage of justice. The prosecutor, now reduced to a figure overwhelmed by the evidentiary truth, could only stare in disbelief. In one heartbeat, the narrative had transformed from a grim execution verdict to a vindication of an unjustly condemned soldier. Mark's fate was reversed in the space of moments that felt timeless. Amid the applause and tearful whispers of those who had come to know the untold story behind his quiet demeanor, Mark was exonerated, yet the soldier's soul bore the bruises of battle and betrayal, and he declined any further service. He had found a fragile hope in a future where redemption was possible through reconciliation and healing. In the weeks that followed the tribunal, Mark and Rex were allowed to leave the confines of military life. The public, too, was moved by the unlikely but unwavering bond between a soldier and his canine companion, a bond that had rescued a man from the brink of an unjust death. Mark retreated to a remote cabin nestled in a secluded valley, a sanctuary where the scars of the past could slowly mend. The cabin, modest and humble, exuded an aura of peace, a place where the freedom to grieve and heal was sanctified by the whisper of the wind among the trees. Together, Mark and Rex began a new life, far removed from the harsh judgments of the military tribunal. They transformed the cabin into a refuge for fellow veterans, a haven for those who bore the invisible wounds of war. Veterans from every branch of the armed forces found solace there, drawn by the quiet strength and compassion exuding from the duo. It was said that a glimpse into Rex's gentle eyes was enough to heal even the most tormented soul. For in those eyes lay the embodiment of unwavering loyalty and a silent promise never to abandon those in need. Days turned into months, and months into years, as the sanctuary blossomed under Mark's quiet stewardship. Along with the care of those who had once worn the scars of conflict, Mark dedicated himself to nurturing the local environment, planting trees, tending to a humble garden, and even caring for stray animals. In doing so, he transformed the secluded area into a living memorial of resilience, a place where nature and human kindness entwined in a dance of perpetual renewal. Rex, though retired from formal duty long ago, remained the heartbeat of the sanctuary. His gentle presence became almost legendary among the veterans who visited the haven. Each time someone doubted their capacity to heal, Rex's calm demeanor and soft presence spoke volumes, reminding them that strength did not always lie in loud declarations or heroic gestures. Sometimes healing was found in the silent, shared moments between a man and his dog, moments of quiet understanding, where pain met compassion without a single word. Yet, even as the sanctuary flourished and hope rekindled in hearts broken by loss and betrayal, time was an unyielding force. The years bore their quiet toll on Rex. The once agile and alert eyes now carried the weight of age and the gentle dimming of a long, faithful life. One crisp autumn afternoon, as the golden leaves drifted slowly to the ground and the wind whispered soft farewells among the ancient oaks, Rex lay down for one last rest by the cabin's weathered porch. His breathing came softly, his eyes closed as if in perpetual slumber, surrounded by friends, veterans, and the man he had saved more than once with his instinctive loyalty. Mark sat by his fallen companion, memories of their shared missions and quiet moments flooding back. In his heart, he knew that Rex had not only saved him from wrongful execution, but he had restored Mark's identity and self-worth. With a heavy heart, yet a sense of quiet gratitude, Mark carved a simple memorial for Rex at the edge of the property, a modest stone engraved with the words, "He gave me back my name when the world tried to take it." The inscription, a permanent testament to the silent heroism of a dog and the unwavering bond they had nurtured, would serve as a reminder to every soul that stepped into the sanctuary. In the wake of Rex's passing, the sanctuary took on an even deeper significance. Veterans continued to travel from far and wide, drawn by the legend of the loyal K9 and the man who had been exonerated by a bond stronger than any accusation. Mark spent his days tending to the needs of his visitors, organizing group sessions, sharing quiet moments of reflection, and even listening to the stories of those who bore the scars of battles, both external and internal. Together, they learned that redemption was not an abstract ideal, but a daily choice, a choice to support one another and to allow the light of hope to overcome the shadows of the past. One particularly cool evening, as twilight settled over the sanctuary, an old Marine veteran named Samuel arrived at the cabin, scarred not only by the horrors of battle, but also by the betrayals he had endured. Samuel carried within him a heavy burden of guilt and regret. The therapist who had recognized the healing potential of the sanctuary had sent him here, urging him to find solace in the quiet and the companionship that only those who had shared the crucible of war could understand. Mark welcomed Samuel with a gentle nod and a warm smile, guiding him to a worn wooden bench beneath a sprawling oak. There, as the fading light cast long shadows across the ground, Mark recounted the story of his own trial and the miraculous turn of events that had saved him. He spoke of the moment Rex had bounded into the courtroom, a moment when loyalty and truth had triumphed over betrayal and injustice. Samuel's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in many long years, he felt the stirrings of forgiveness and hope. As Samuel began to heal through the quiet routine of the sanctuary, tending to the garden, engaging in heartfelt conversations with fellow veterans, and sharing laughter over simple meals, the legacy of Rex was never far from his mind. In every soft pat on the back of a fellow veteran, in every quiet smile exchanged over a steaming cup of coffee, the spirit of Rex and the enduring truth that loyalty can heal even the deepest wounds were palpable. It was as if the soft echo of Rex's bark and the steadfast rhythm of his paws on the floor were etched into the very air of the sanctuary. Months turned into seasons, and seasons into years, with the sanctuary growing into a beacon of healing for those lost in the darkness of war. Mark, now a quiet elder with eyes that had witnessed both the cruelty of injustice and the tender grace of redemption, continued his mission with the steadfast dedication of a man who had known both the depths of despair and the heights of hope. Every sunset was a silent tribute to Rex, every dawn a reminder that the past, no matter how painful, could be reconciled with the promise of a new beginning. In the years that followed, as nature embraced the sanctuary in a gentle, unyielding rhythm, the story of Mark and Rex became a part of the local lore. Old photographs, faded letters, and mementos of the tribunal, once instruments of sorrow and despair, were carefully stored in a modest museum established on the grounds. Here, visitors could learn not only of a military tribunal and a near-tragic fate, but of the redemptive power of loyalty, trust, and the unspoken communication between a man and his dog. It was a tale that transcended the boundaries of war, reaching deep into the human heart, and reminding all who heard it that even in the darkest moments, light could be found in the bonds of love and the strength of an unbreakable spirit. 1. Crisp winter day, as snow blanketed the ground and the sanctuary seemed to slumber beneath a soft white quilt, Mark gathered the veterans and a few local children around the memorial stone dedicated to Rex. With a voice that resonated with both sorrow and resolute joy, he recounted the day when Rex had retrieved the evidence, a day that had rewritten his destiny and restored his dignity. In every act of loyalty, Mark said softly, there is a silent courage that defies the cruelty of injustice. Rex did not speak with words, but his actions echoed louder than any tribunal's verdict. In his eyes I found the truth, and in his trust I reclaimed my soul. The gathered crowd listened in rapt silence, each person absorbing the profound truth in his words, feeling the echo of loyalty that transcended time and circumstance. The seasons continued their eternal dance at the sanctuary. Spring brought with it a rebirth of flora and spirit alike. Fresh blooms unfolded across the garden, and the laughter of rehabilitated veterans mingled with the songs of returning birds. Summer days were spent in quiet conversation, the shared stories of hardship and healing, weaving a tapestry of mutual understanding. Autumn once again painted the sanctuary with hues of gold and crimson, every falling leaf a gentle reminder that nothing in life was permanent, yet every memory was worth treasuring. Mark often strolled along the winding paths of the retreat, pausing to speak silently to the trees, as if they too were witnesses to his story. His eyes, though lined with age, still held the glimmer of a man who had once fought for both truth and justice amid the thunder of cannon fire and the silence of whispered betrayal. And while Rex's physical presence had long since faded into the mists of memory, his spirit embodied in every moment of trust, every quiet act of kindness, and every story shared around the flickering warmth of a campfire remained the guiding force in the sanctuary. Years flowed by, each one etching deeper the legacy of loyalty and redemption. The sanctuary became not just a refuge for veterans, but a living memorial to all those who had been betrayed by circumstance and found solace in each other's companionship. It was a place where wounds, both seen and unseen, began to mend, a place where the echoes of past valor and quiet heroism were celebrated with grace and humility. In the twilight of his life, Mark would often sit on the weathered steps of his cabin, gazing out at the vast expanse of sky and the rolling hills beyond. The memories of the tribunal, the bitter taste of injustice, and the sweet triumph of redemption would dance in his mind like shadows in the fading light. Yet, above all, there was the memory of Rex, a loyal friend whose bravery had not only saved a life but had changed the course of destiny. Mark's heart swelled with both sorrow for the loss and gratitude for the legacy that the K9 had bestowed upon him, a legacy that had inspired countless souls to believe in the transformative power of loyalty and trust. On the centennial anniversary of that fateful tribunal, a small commemorative event was held at the sanctuary. Veterans, families, and local townsfolk gathered to pay tribute to all that had been lost and to celebrate the enduring truth that compassion and fidelity could overcome even the darkest of human failings. An old veteran, whose quiet testimony had been passed down through generations, recounted the miracles of that day. The moment when Rex's noble act had brought to light the truth, cleansing the tarnished honor of a brave soldier and forever imbuing the sanctuary with a spirit of healing. The crowd, touched by the bittersweet remembrance, vowed silently that such loyalty and dedication would forever be honored and remembered in their hearts. As dusk gave way to night and the first stars began to twinkle overhead, Mark, now a revered figure of quiet wisdom, stepped forward to address those gathered. "We have all been touched by loss," he said, his voice low and resolute. "But in our darkest moments, it is the bonds we forge that shine the brightest. Rex's sacrifice reminds us that true loyalty is not measured in words, but in actions that bind us beyond the limits of life and death." A hushed murmur of agreement swept through the crowd, and in that shared silence was the acknowledgement of a truth that resonated deeply with every soul present. In the years that followed, the memory of the unjust tribunal and the subsequent vindication became a tale not of despair, but of hope, a hope that had been forged in the crucible of betrayal and tempered by the unwavering loyalty of a humble, steadfast dog. Mark's sanctuary continued to serve as a beacon for those seeking refuge from the scars of war, a refuge where hearts were slowly mended by shared compassion and quiet acts of kindness. Within the sanctuary's confines, every echo, every gentle breeze, and every rustling leaf seemed to whisper the enduring message that loyalty and love, even in the face of betrayal, could transform the deepest wounds into symbols of life's unyielding resilience. And so, as the stars arced silently across the heavens and the sanctuary slumbered beneath the watchful eye of the moon, the story of Mark and Rex lived on, a narrative of sorrow and hope, betrayal and redemption, of silent heroism that rescued a life from the jaws of injustice. The soldier, forever changed by the quiet bravery of his K9 partner, had come to embody the truth that even in the midst of despair, a single act of genuine loyalty could restore honor, heal wounds, and illuminate the path toward a future defined by peace. In the stillness of that eternal night, the legacy of Rex was etched indelibly into the soul of every soul who sought solace under the banner of redemption. His gentle spirit endured in the laughter of recovered veterans, in the rustle of autumn leaves, and in the soft murmur of the wind that carried whispers of hope across the valley. The soldier, now a guardian of that sacred space, knew that though his journey had been wrought with pain and betrayal, the loyalty of a quiet friend had redeemed him, and in that redemption lay a promise that every lost soul could find its way home. Mark's life had transformed from one defined by the harsh verdicts of war to one celebrated in the quiet acts of daily kindness. His cabin, modest and warm against the chill of bygone battles, stood as a testimony to the unbreakable human spirit, a spirit that, like the gentle eyes of Rex, looked past the darkness into the shimmering light of redemption. And as each day came to an end, Mark would sit in contemplation, grateful for the enduring truth that the bonds of loyalty, once forged in the crucible of pain and perseverance, could ever transform even the gravest of betrayals into stories of healing and hope. Thus, in the quiet aftermath of a turbulent past, the soldier and his canine companion left an indelible mark on the world, a legacy of trust, sacrifice, and a gentle reminder that even when the world seems determined to strip away one's honor, loyalty has the power to restore and illuminate the path to lasting peace.